What do this RGB light bulb, this thermostat, and this smart plug all have in common? The answer is that inside each of these, you'll find a microcontroller from Espressif, the ESP32. Manufacturers will use this chip whenever they need a low-cost way to add Wi-Fi to one of their products. Between the ESP32 and its predecessor, Espressif claimed to have sold over 1 billion of these things, and that was 2 years ago. But it's not just popular with manufacturers. The ESP32 is also a big hit with developers, thanks to documentation that is both thorough and accessible, an open-source C SDK with tons of example code. But most importantly, Espressif is the first silicon vendor to maintain a set of Rust crates for their hardware. And that's why we're here today, to use this tooling to set up embedded Rust on an ESP32. Quick PSA, if you haven't installed Rust yet, check out this video first for all the basics, then come on back here for setup specific to the ESP32. Okay, the first question we should be asking is, which ESP32 are we talking about? Because while originally there was just one product, in recent years it's evolved into a family of products. As of this recording, there are currently 8 different series to support a variety of wireless capabilities. And these feature 2 distinct 32-bit processor architectures. The Tensilica Extensa is used in the original ESP32, S2, and S3, and RISC-V cores can be found in everything else. Rust uses LLVM as its backend compiler, allowing it to build binaries for almost any kind of processor. Almost. This is done by providing a target triple during your build to identify the appropriate instruction set architecture and runtime environment. Normally, this would mean searching through Rust's platform support page to try to find the right target triple for our hardware, which in this case is a bit tricky. But today we have a guide to help us out, the Rust on ESP book. This has all the details you'll need to get going with your preferred ESP32. One thing you'll find here is that there are 2 major decisions that will dictate your setup process. The first, as we discussed, is your processor architecture. For a typical bare metal project that doesn't use the standard library, the documentation identifies 2 target triples for the RISC-V ESP32s. These are normal Tier 2 targets, which means you can install them using RustUp and then build your code using your preferred Rust toolchain. For Extensa, things are a little more complicated because the current version of LLVM doesn't fully support these processors. Now, there is a multi-year effort underway to get them into upstream LLVM, but in the meantime, Espressif maintains a fork of both LLVM and Rust to support these targets. And you'll also need the GCC toolchain to link the final binary. This is not as bad as it sounds because Espressif have developed a tool called ESPUp that will do all of this for you, and you'll use this ESP toolchain whenever you build your projects. Okay. That covers the usual bare metal embedded Rust targets, but there is one other possibility, and that's using Espressif's IoT Development Framework, or IDF. This popular C SDK features a real-time operating system kernel and a large number of drivers and libraries. These are made available through the ESP IDF syscrate, which will download and build the IDF for you and provide raw bindings to the underlying C API. A few other IDF crates then use this to give you safe Rust APIs. The runtime provided by ESP IDF means you'll be using the standard library and a different set of target triples. These are all Tier 3, so you'll need to use either the ESP or Nightly toolchain, and install a different linker along with a few other things needed to set up IDF on your host machine. So there are a few paths forward. My primary interest is in the pure Rust option supported by Espressif, paired with a RISC-V processor, which is the architecture they'll be using in future products. Today we'll be working with a C6 dev board, which has a RISC-V processor, an integrated antenna, an RGB LED, and 2 USB-C ports. Installing this target is just a single call to RustUp. Next, let's figure out what tools we need to connect our host machine to our dev board. The usual way to program and debug a microcontroller is by connecting a USB probe to either its JTAG or serial wire debug pins. This can be done either through an external probe or one that's built into the development board itself. But the default approach for the ESP32 is no probe at all. Instead, the data lines from one of the USB-C ports go directly into the target. Here, they present to the host a composite USB device consisting of a virtual serial port and a vendor-specific interface that goes to a JTAG controller. A tool like ProbeRS can then use that JTAG interface to perform all the typical debug operations. So, all you need to start using the C6 dev board is a USB-C cable and the ProbeRS command line interface, which has become the standard debugging tool for embedded Rust projects. But there is another way to program your ESP32 using a serial interface. Well, a virtual serial interface. This is available on the other component of that serial JTAG port, and also on the second USB port, which connects to your target through a UART to USB converter. At startup, either of these can be used by the ESP32's built-in ROM bootloader to communicate with a new tool, Espressif's ESP Flash CLI. Like ProbeRS, this can be used as a cargo runner to program your microcontroller following a build, and also display any log messages that get flushed out that serial interface as your application runs. At this point, I'm not quite sure which approach we're going to use, so let's make sure that we've got the latest version of ProbeRS, and then we can use Cargo to install ESP Flash. We've got our target, we've got our tools, so now it's time to set up an embedded Rust project. Creating a new Rust project is easy. Just enter cargo new followed by the project name, and you're off to the races. But if you've got a bare metal target, that was just the first step. By my count, there are at least 9 other things you'll want to do before you write your first line of application code. And we have covered these in some depth in previous videos. Long story short, setting all this up is a fairly manual process, though tools like Cargo Generate can help speed things up. But today we've got something better. And that's one last tool, Espressif's ESP Generate. This is the recommended way to create a new embedded Rust project for an ESP32. Just specify which hardware you're using and your project name, and then you'll be presented with a variety of possible options, some gated by others, to help you check off all of those remaining items. In most cases, you'll want the unstable feature, as it's required to use many of the peripherals. Sadly, I don't think we're going to need Embassy today. For debugging, let's try out ESP Flash instead of the usual ProbeRS. We'll use dformat for logging with Espressif's Panic Handler. And lastly, I'll be using VS Code, so let's grab an IDE configuration as well. And there we have it. If you're used to doing all of this manually, using ESP Generate feels a bit like cheating. But if we poke around the generated code, everything seems to be set up for us, and there's nothing else we need to do to get this program to build. So, what are we building? This is a little Hello World project that periodically sends out a log message over the USB serial interface. There are 2 things I'd like to point out here. The first is this macro, indicating that there is a second bootloader, the IDF bootloader. This is capturing some of the build information and placing it within the read-only data of the firmware image, which is pretty cool, but it also raises a number of questions that we'll circle back to in a little bit. Okay, next thing, the ESP HAL. This is what's used to access the hardware. This crate's maintained by Espressif, and it's got both blocking and async APIs. It's also where you'll find the linker script and memory.x file for your controller. The ESP HAL is part of a parent project with the same name that contains all of Espressif's other bare metal ESP32 crates that you might want to use. Alright, let's get this dev board connected. We're using ESP Flash, so we can plug into either of these USB ports. These boards come from the factory with a fancy Blinky. Well, not for long. To build our project and program the board, we'll just use the standard cargo run command and watch ESP Flash do its thing. Okay, that is working as advertised. But the most interesting thing about this firmware is actually all these other log messages that we didn't write that come from the two bootloaders. I would love to dive into the ESP32's startup process and its bootloaders, but it's a bit out of scope for this video. So if that's something you'd like to see, let me know in the comments below. All right, technically we are all set up, but before we leave for today, I'd really like to try to bring back that RGBlinky that we just trampled. So let's get into it. Normally, blinking an LED is just a matter of toggling one of the GPIO pins high and low. But our dev board has a smart or addressable LED, the popular WS2812. This has a single input that's used to control the brightness of its red, blue, and green LEDs through some custom high-speed signaling. It also has an output so that you can string several of these together, and each will remove the first set of brightnesses it receives and pass forward the others. There are a number of drivers for this LED on Crates.io, including one from the ESP HAL community. This uses the ESP32's remote control transceiver peripheral to handle the signaling, and provides an adapter that implements the Smart LEDs trait to provide a nice interface to work with. In my timeline, the published crate is running slightly behind the ESP HAL release candidate that we're using, but if we check the latest version on GitHub, we see that it is up to date. So we'll just use this one instead. In here, we'll also find some example code on how to set up the RMT for our C6 dev board. So let's bring in Smart LEDs from Crates.io. Then we'll add ESP HAL Smart LED from GitHub. Okay, let's start by creating a HAL representation of the RMT. The first argument here is the peripheral instance we want to use, and unfortunately, Rust Analyzer can't expand the macro that's generating the peripheral struct, so there's no LSP help here. For the frequency, we'll use the same 80 MHz rate from the example. Next, we can create the LED driver itself, which is called the Smart LED adapter. It needs one of the RMT channels, the pin that connects to the LED, and we'll use the Smart LED buffer macro to correctly size a signaling buffer for our single LED. One thing you'll notice about this LED is that it is crazy bright, so on an 8-bit scale, I'm choosing a modest level of 10 to keep my retinas intact. We'll start with all of the LEDs off, except for the red one. To light these up, we'll be using the Smart LED crate's Smart LED Write trait that's implemented by the Smart LED adapter. This exposes a write method that wants to iterate over a collection of colors for each of the LEDs. Finally, we need to update the color for the next trip through the loop. I'm going to keep things simple and just rotate through each color in turn. And that should do it. Not quite the kaleidoscope we had before, but not bad either. That's it for today. Be sure to hit that subscribe button before you go so that you don't miss out on future videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.